Welcome to Sam Outside. I'm Sam, and I'm outside stumbling upon what might be a frequent stop for me throughout the coming winter. It's that tree right behind me. The pileated woodpecker have done an enormous amount of work in literally the past 48 hours. Now, that stump's been there for a long time. It's a basswood, a softer deciduous. That's a good size. But what used to be just, a rotting stump or log has now turned into a very potentially important piece of habitat, not only because of the food source it represents for the pileated woodpeckers, but the caverns and holes they're digging are going to become a refuge, a safe place for other winter woodland creatures. So you can see that mass on the ground. That wasn't there. That amount wasn't there 24 hours ago. So this has been a busy bird. So I'm going to get a little bit closer and check it out. Now, it would take a little bit of effort for me to notice, the work done on the stem. So what my eye is always drawn to as I'm scanning the forest along my walk is, change, what's new and different. And this amount of wood chips on the ground, especially given their brighter, blonder color, definitely drew my attention. It's just a couple steps off my trail. And then as I started to notice that, my eyes followed up the trail. Whoa, that's new, that's different. So what I have, aside from all this fresh litter, is evidence that that pileated woodpecker, I mean, it's not a large bird. I mean, it's large as far as, songbirds go. And people underestimate the size of the pileated woodpecker because we normally see them up in the canopy flying, across roads, or we see them flying from high above. But when you get to see them down at this level, they can be up to 18 inches. So, like, imagine chipping away all that debris with a chisel mounted to your face. So it's an enormous amount of work. And I mean, the fruiting bodies on this tree, they indicate that, this tree's been it's been rotting for a long time. And that's what's invited all of the boring insects. So what you have here, there's just small holes. So when the woodpecker's going through the forest, it's looking for places where it could potentially find food. So what makes the pileated woodpecker so uniquely adapted for its food source? So many things. First of all, its feet. They've got little pads, sensitive pads on their feet where they can, when their toes land on the trunk, they can sense the vibration of insects moving inside. Particularly ants, they'll be able to hear and feel the number of ants inside the stem if it's hollow. And then they'll do little exploratory taps, and they tap, 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 and that'll get the ants moving, right, with the vibrations. Now, the grubs that'll be feeding on the wood, that's probably what they're after here. Again, I've heard them in the winter, especially when the sun's hitting the south face. A little bit of warmth in the wood, crunch, crunch, crunch. You'll hear the larvae of the beetle gnawing on the wood fibers. So the beetle lays the egg on the bark. When those larvae hatch, they instinctively eat their way into the wood. When they reach the heart, they turn around and they eat on the way back, all the while growing, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So the woodpecker, its adaptation is to know, based on the sound, frequency, they'll not only know what kind of grub it is, but its size. Is it worth me pounding my face against solid matter to retrieve that amount of protein? So it's doing a little bit of math there. Is it worth it? Now, in order to do that, it's got to set up a workstation. So its feet are differently designed than most other birds. Most other birds have, 3 in the front and 1 at the rear for hanging on to a branch for perching. Not the pileated woodpecker. It's got 2 in the front and then 2 down below at the back, so it can actually have 4 equal parts to purchase and grab onto the bark. Some pretty good talents. Its tail feathers, it's got predominant tail feathers, abnormally, differently stiff, a little bit thicker, and they act as a brace. So it's setting up a workstation so it can actually prop itself on the tail, sit back, grab on, and then start to go to work. And it pounds its face against solid matter for possibly hours before it actually gets the food. And it can do this and avoid concussion with it, where its brain is, not like ours, that when our brain stops, suddenly it hits the inside of our own skull and swells and creates a concussion. It's perfectly adapted. It's got a little bit more cartilage to brace the beak impact on the skull itself. But beyond that, its tongue doesn't get stored the way other tongues might get stored inside a bird or an animal's mouth. It actually has special designed caverns, cranial voids, where the tongue can actually create basically a meat helmet on the inside of its own skull, protecting the brain from that impact. So that's one other unique adaptation. And it's putting in hours of work. Now, I can't even imagine. I do some woodworking. I'm quite familiar with the concept of chisels. This is days worth of activity, and it's got to be worth it. So I'm absolutely enamored, just awestruck by the amount of work that's gone into the amount of wood removed for the sake of finding food. Now, these holes, if they haven't already, they will be used. Because of the angle of that tree, it's not going to get the precipitation and the prevailing winds coming inside the hole, which is going to be a nice refuge later. So the pileated woodpeckers, they will use their wood or their insect harvesting holes as their own shelter, their own nesting spots. But when it's not in use, anything and everything, other birds, including owls, but those caverns have also been used by the squirrels and the chipmunks, but also the pine marten and the fisher and the raccoons. Anything that can climb up, depending on the size of the opening and depending on the inside of the cavern, we'll see them often used by a myriad of other woodland creatures. So very important for providing habitat. And they stay all winter, right? They don't migrate. So I'll look forward to seeing the progress that that particular one makes. And I'll be watching that stump throughout the winter to see animal tracks, to see who's coming and going, and possibly even, you know, what kind of leaf litter or other materials might be gathered to insulate and keep themselves warm. So one more thing I look forward to visiting throughout the course of my winter. If you haven't seen them already, yeah, listen for them, watch them. They do mate for life, so they'll be pairs, and they're quite territorial. We won't get a lot of them. The two that I see in this forest would be the two that I have been seeing for a long time, and I hope to continue to watch their efforts and continue to be awestruck by the unique adaptations and work that they do to support not only their own needs, and also helping to accelerate the decomposition of standing wood in the forest, but also how they support other members of the wildlife community as they provide habitat and shelter. Thanks for that. Appreciate you watching. I'll talk to you again soon. I'll keep you updated. Thanks. Bye-bye.